Hi, thanks for visiting Buffzone. My name's Ringo. This is Neill Woelk. We cover the University of Colorado football team for the Daily Camera newspaper. We're here to talk about the spring game last Saturday. Neill, what do you know now that you didn't know before you watched the Buffs in their spring game at Folsom Field?
I guess what was confirmed for me that I hoped to see that I wasn't sure was that they could run the football. I really liked the way the running game showed up in the spring game. They ran it, multiple times. Darrell Scott, Lockridge, Rodney Stewart, Sumler. They've got a good running game. You always suspected they had it, but you hadn't seen it in the spring because they'd been working so much on their passing game. And I think that spring game confirmed that they are going to have a solid running game. I mean, that's a running game that could be in the top 4 in the Big 12.
Yeah, they had, what was it, 50 carries for a little bit more than 300 yards. Basically 6 yards a carry. I think that that also confirms that the offensive line, under a new offensive line coach, seems to be coming together and finding its way, adopting a little bit more of an aggressive style than they played the last couple of years under Jeff Grimes. One of the things I kind of had confirmed for me is this quarterback battle is really close, but I also think that Cody Hawkins, the junior, is still slightly ahead of Tyler Hansen, the sophomore. And then Tyler Hansen broke his thumb in the second half of the game, and he'll be out. So I think, that's just a little bit more help for Cody. I do think, however, though, when they reconvene in August for fall camp, that Tyler's right there and does have, the opportunity and the ability to make the leap and maybe steal the job from Cody.
I think that's a possibility. And one reason I say that is and you and I were talking to Jimmy Smith after the scrimmage, and Smith said that Hansen had improved dramatically, made by far the biggest leap during the spring. Now, if he can do that again in the summer camp and fall camp, if he can improve that much more, there's no reason to think he can't pass Cody Hawkins. Either way, I can't imagine a scenario that you don't see both quarterbacks next fall. I really think that you're going to see both quarterbacks in one form or another, both getting some what you'd call significant or big playing time for both of them, because I just think they're going to use both.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if you didn't see both on the field. Sometimes both in the same game. Sometimes, maybe one guy plays the whole game and a couple games later the other guy plays the whole game. I mean, who knows? None of those scenarios would surprise me. Let's talk a little bit about the defense. What did you see from the defense that maybe stuck out to you or surprised you? Or
well, I mentioned Jimmy Smith, and obviously I think that kid has a chance to become one of the Big 12's premier cornerbacks, and in a league where everybody throws the ball, that's going to be an incredibly valuable weapon. But I think Jimmy Smith is just a terrific cover corner. He's the kind of guy that, with a little more work and a lot of dedication on his part, I think he could become the guy that becomes that shutdown corner, that lockdown corner that you don't worry about, that other teams look at him and say, okay, we're going to go the other way, because he has that potential to make those big plays.
Yeah, I think the secondary overall is really a strong point with this team, and Greg Brown and Ashley Ambrose have done a really great job getting those guys prepared. I mean, you look across that secondary, and it's really deep. You have Jimmy Smith, Ben Burney, Chappelle Brown, Jaleel Brown. All those guys are capable of playing cornerback. Then you have Patrick Mankey, Anthony Perkins, Travis Sandersfeld, and you also have Jaleel Brown. All can play safety. So,
and you've got Anthony Wright is hurt right now.
Anthony
right?
Wright is hurt. You have Paul Vigo, who seems to be coming along rather quickly at the cornerback spot. You got Stephen Hicks, Vince Ewing. You just got a wealth of talent there, and
by far the most talent that Greg Brown has had, I think,
right,
since he's been here in that secondary. And Greg's done a great job kind of patching together, where they weren't real strong in places. And I think this is a year that they could have talent across the board.
A couple things that were nice to see, I'm sure, for CU fans is, a couple of guys who have been kind of in the shadows on the periphery, and you've been kind of scratching your head about them for most of their time in the program. Taj Kaynor and Marcus Burton, two fifth-year seniors who haven't gotten a lot of playing time throughout their career, seem to really step forward and shine this spring, and you start to believe that, yeah, maybe these guys can play and can become a strong contributing members to the defense next fall.
No doubt. I think Burton could become a great factor. I mean, what we saw the other day was him going after the quarterback, and I think that was you're going to see more of that obviously next fall. They're not going to have a great push from their defensive line when they're chasing down quarterbacks. It just doesn't look like they're going to have a great push in that 4-3 that they're running.
Yeah, exactly.
but they did bring Burton up the middle quite a bit. I think he had 2 quarterback sacks, a couple tackles for losses, and that's what you really like to see from that position. If they can get a push up the middle like that, I think that's a huge strength for that defense, is to be able to get to the quarterback from the linebacker spot.
Okay, so the season is, what, 4 months away, roughly, a little bit more than 4 months till Colorado
September
State.
the 5th is when it opens up.
So you look at that schedule. What are your initial impressions? I mean, how many wins can this team generate?
Well, you always have to. You want to break it down into game by game and see what they can win. I think those first 3 games are must wins for them. I just think they have to come out of the gate and win those first 3. If they
Colorado State, Toledo, Wyoming. 2 of those games at home.
Yep, I think they have to win those first 3. And if they win those first 3, I think that gives them momentum for a lot of things that can happen. I have no idea how the rest of the Big 12 is going to shake out. People are saying Missouri is going to be a little bit down. I think they're not going to be as good as they have been, but they still have a lot of talent there. You're talking about how good is Texas A&M going to be. Kansas. Kansas is a team that I don't think was as good last year as they were the year before. They still have Todd Reesing. These are all teams that are on Colorado's schedule. How's Colorado going to match up? And those are toss-up games. And Nebraska. And I think you look at those games and you've got 3 they should win, 2 or 3 they're probably not going to win that you're going to pick them to lose right now. And then that leaves you about 6 right in the middle that are toss-ups. So anywhere between 3 and 9, you can pick a number in there and say that's where they're going to fall. But I'd like to see a little bit more of the rest of the Big 12 before I say this is exactly how many games I think they'll win. How about you?
Well, you mentioned that they had to go 3-0 to start the season. That would be big. They started the season last year 3-0, and they weren't able to capitalize on that momentum. I just think the way this non-conference schedule, this is probably the easiest non-conference schedule they've had since I've been covering the team, and certainly probably
for a long time.
For quite a long time. I mean, I just think they do have to go at least 3-1 the non-conference. And I think this team is capable of winning 8 regular season games. I'm not sure which 8 games those are going to be, but to me, I look at the schedule, and the only 2 games that I really kind of count them out of right from the get-go is at Austin against the Longhorns, and on 5 days rest in Stillwater, second consecutive road game in November against the Cowboys. I just am not a believer that they'll go down there and win that. But outside of those games, I think they could win every other game on their schedule. I actually think 10-2 is not out of the question, but I kind of doubt they're going to win 10 games. But 8-4 seems reasonable.
I think this team definitely has, there's far more talent out there, and you and I have talked about this. There's a lot more talent on the field from top to bottom. They have the talent to be able to go out and win, like you said, 9 or 10 games. That being said, everything has to turn out perfect, and it's very seldom that a season turns out like that for any team.
That's a great point, because if you have what happened last year happen again, I mean, if you lose 3 members of your starting offensive line
after you've won your first
month,
3, that's
right.
what you.
I mean, if that sort of thing happens again, then no, you're not going to win 8, 9, 10 games. You're going to struggle. Every week's going to be a dogfight, and you're going to be hoping to beat Nebraska to go to a bowl game probably. But if they can get some some luck on their side this season, then
avoid the bad luck.
Exactly.
Just avoid the bad luck.
Then I think 8 wins is possible.
Oh, I think 8 wins is a distinct possibility. I won't say that if they don't win 8, it's not a successful season. But this is a team you'd like to see come out and win 8 games and take that step forward. And the best thing about it is if they win 8 games with this team, most of the kids that won 8 games will be back the following year. They won't do it with a senior-laden team.
That's true. I mean, the bulk of this team, the bulk of the experience and talent and whatnot is in the junior and sophomore classes this year. So you heard it here. 8 wins, no excuses.
I thought it was 10.
Well, here it's 8.
Here it's 8.
At Buffzone,
See?
it's 8.
At Buffzone, it's 8. We're so much easier to get along with.